Okay, I think the recording started, but this is the testing place. It's a little different than what was actually in the video, but it's the same exact system. It's literally just the same thing I just copied and put it into here to test, and both of them will be linked below. And the only things that I have in this, other than everything that's just built into Roblox by itself, is a simple shift lock changer, which all it does is it changes the normal shift lock button from left shift and right shift to just being alt, or I guess in this scenario, left alt, which the only reason I have it like that is because the um, flying system uses left shift to speed up. And you can find all of the contents inside of here just right here. And that's really basically it. You know, there's no other outside components, just a simple little local script that does everything. I can take off the left alt 2, and again, we're just left with this one. That's everything left. Yeah. So just kind of some breakdowns. I use some explainers and stuff to help explain everything that's going on here. So these things are just little variables being set. Again, if you don't know, local just means you're going to name something and you're going to set it equal to something. And so, for example, I'm set the normal volume. You can see here that we're going to use sound 1 volume equals normal volume. And sound 1 is just something that is created. So basically right here, how we have the wind effect, this is a sound, and that plays. And then when we use a new sound, what we do is we define it using the local thing, and then instance.new just means we're creating it and putting it into the workspace or on the character. So basically all we're doing is making a sound, giving it an ID, naming it, and setting the volume to whatever we put here. So that's where these variables come into play, and it lets you change these things really, really easily without having to go into the script and finding like specific things. Like same thing with the animations. Like let's say I have the boosting forward animation. I set it to this instead of having to type out specifically right here that I want to boost forward, and then I set the animation here and I have to do it like 5 times. I can just reference this later. Anyway. Right here is just a little extra thing I have for trails. So all it does is it adds these things onto the stuff, leg, and it just kind of makes it, look like there's wind resistance when really it's just a little trail. That's all it does. Um, I guess let's just go through part by part and explain everything. And because I did code all of this out, and then I realized how boring it was to sit there and watch me code for like 2 hours. So I figured that's not very interesting. So this, at least I can explain what everything is. So this is just the trail settings, but all it does is just, it says the trail engine, it just says everything for it, It just says if we want to make it white, we can change it to red, using color 3 values if we want. And then red, you can use that however you want. That's just the transparency. Light emission is kind of just how much light it exudes and puts out, meaning it's kind of like the glow factor. Put that there. Glowing factor. All right, and the width is kind of just how wide it is, because while it's dragging and it's getting longer, the width is going to be staying consistent. And all we're going to do is just create a new number value or number sequence, I guess. And all we're doing is setting that to 0.5, so it just stays consistent throughout. And the lifetime just determines how long it stays active for. Basically meaning it starts at 1 point, and then it keeps on dragging, and then it starts decaying over time. So the lifetime is just how long it lasts. And all of this is just the basic trail settings. That's all it is. And setup, this is just more variables being defined. The workspace is just outside where the player is going to be located. It's kind of just a little world. The tween service is kind of like an animation thing, a little bit. It's a system where it has parts go from point A to point B. And what it does is it you plug in point A, you plug in point B, and the tween service helps it get there. It's just the process of moving things, kind of. It's easier to see it in action and then learn from it rather than define it specifically, in my opinion. All the UIs is I guess user input service. All that is really just some basic functions that I will explain later. And the camera is just the player's camera, which I guess you can see right there. I'm not sure if that's the player's camera itself actually when it's in the game, but this just does things that modify like screen shaking and things like that. And then again, that's just other values we're going to manipulate later, which is just things for screen shaking. It's completely outside of the actual flying system. It's just for the visual components. The character is a script up parent, basically right here. We have the script itself, and then it's not actually going to be in the character scripts or anything. It's going to go directly inside the player's model. So that's how we're going to find the person and work with it. That way, the character, we can put the trail on and stuff. So we put this trail that we make, we're going to later put it onto the character and other things like that, like the body gyro. Actually, no, that should all be in there already because it's in the script. The humanoid is going to be character, which is just, I guess I can generate one so we can see. I'll just have that on standby. So the humanoid is going to be just inside of the character, because this dummy is essentially just the player, really. And when the game starts, um, all the local scripts right here will just be, yeah, they'll all just be inside the player like that. And that's how we can manipulate it and add the trails and things like that. And all of this really here is just defining everything. It's nothing too specific. Honestly, it's easiest to just, if you don't understand like what a body velocity is or a body gyro is, I really just say go to ChatGPT and just say, hey, what's a body gyro? And it's going to explain it way better than I am. The animator, basic explanation is just kind of what controls animations in the player. So that way we can animate it with all these things up here. And then fly moving is just literally one of the values we have right there. Everything here, super, super basic, just explaining what it is. Oops, sorry. Sound setup, same thing right here. The only difference is we're not finding something that already exists. We're generating an instance, and an instance is anything here. Anything that we can find in Roblox Studio, even the workspace, even the material service, everything is an instance. And so what we're doing is we're just creating a new instance, which does the same thing as inserting an object and then looking sound. And that's it. And it just attached it to the root part of the character. And then we name it. We set the volumes, what we set here, like I showed you guys earlier, and that's really about it. And this little statement, all it does is it's saying if the when sound is not enabled, then sound one's volume doesn't exist. I guess just muted, not it doesn't exist. And it's just setting the current tween to nothing before we actually use the tween values later. So that way we don't do it, We can't do it if it's not ready yet. And again, this is all just some repetitive things. Like I guess I'll explain this one. So this just sets the sound to the target volume, which we defined earlier, and then it just tweens it from place to place. So instead of having the volume, I guess tweening works for both physical entities and sound entities. It can also work for animations. It's just going from point A to point B. So all we're doing here is using the tween to go from being loud to quiet and quiet to loud. That's really it. Here's just the function where we load all the animations. And all of this stuff here is just, it's really just going to be keybind inputs along with some movement things. So basically, let's say the player's flying and they're holding down W, or I mean, they're going in a forward direction. They're going to be going with the forward animation. Same with backward. Left goes left, and then when it's boosted, left goes boosted left, left goes or boosted backward, and stuff like that. And all that is stopping all the animations. So whenever we call this function later, it's just going to make them all stop, if that makes sense. That way, when you stop flying, you don't keep being animated. Oops, hit that button. The ground check is pretty simple. Basically, all this does is it's ray casting to the ground to see if the character is touching. It's not to my knowledge, it's possible to really know if a part is touching another part, but it's possible to know how close it is. Or I guess you can check it through collisions, but I don't want to have to do collisions through the ground all the time. So basically, I'm just having a small little distance. I'm checking, I'm raycasting, which means I'm kind of shooting a beam from the player to the ground, constantly measuring how far away from the ground it is. And then once it gets close to the ground or any object, it stops the flight. That way, if you hit a wall, you stop flying. And that's really everything that's being happened here and with all the raycast things. That's really the whole is grounded. And this is grounded function. A function would really never dictate when something's going to happen. It's just kind of dictating that it does happen. So this function is grounded is not checking to see if the raycast hits the ground. It's just kind of disabling the thing, disabling flight. This is so boring, I bet, to try and listen to someone talk about this stuff. This is so boring, I bet. I bet this is so boring. All this does is it's just basically telling the server, not telling the server, it's telling the client. It's a client script. It only talks to the client. But basically all we're doing here is we're looking at the directions that happen. Um, Meaning that we're not looking for input on if a player goes left or right. We're looking for input like, hey, is a player moving to the left or is a player moving to the right? And that dictates the animation. You could change this and it would be a little bit more simpler, but you wouldn't be able to, I don't know. I kind of like it. I like it personally, but you could definitely change it and it would be probably a little simpler. It's just how I kind of chose to write it like this. And this just is really just checking movement because there's no reason to be playing any animation if you're moving while, like basically, let's say we're moving, like the gyro keeps us going, and we're still kind of like moving a little bit even though we're not pressing any keys. This basically just means that we're not going to be doing any animations or anything specifically unless the keys are being held. Trails, all this does is it takes the trails we did before. You know, we're taking the trail configuration and we're just going to be attaching the trail that we make into the player, like left hand, right hand, left foot, right foot. It's all the things I tried to show earlier, you know, it's just right here, 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 and here. This stuff is so boring, dude. This stuff is so boring to people, I bet. I don't even know if anybody's gonna watch this. Maybe somebody. All this does is just it's all it's doing is just updating the trail transparency. It's literally right there. I tried to make this all as clear as I possibly could. It's just saying, oh, if it's boosting, it's not transparent at all. When you're not boosting, it's kind of transparent, and then when you're not there, like when you're not flying, boom, it's not even visible. It's basically normal flight, it's kind of visible, and if you're boosting, it's really visible to make it look like there's more air resistance. And setup trails just basically it really just sets up the trail. That's it. We're just calling what we wrote earlier. That's all it is. That's really all of this is. It's so So simple. All this is just explaining like, hey, I'm gonna set the speed to 55. I can make it 2 if I want. I can make it 30. The speed boost just sets the speed whenever you're boosting. Was boosting just sets to false because why would you be boosting before you're boosting? Basically just flicks to true whenever you boost, if that makes sense. Update camera, all it does is just it really I added so many things here. It explains everything. It explains everything so clearly. And if you don't understand it, I really just recommend copy it and just go to ChatGPT. It's so easy. It helps so much easier than listening to some idiot try and explain this stuff that they only like half understand. It takes them forever to make it. This is just setting some animation things, just some clauses, basically just saying like, hey, we're not gonna be forced into anything. Oh my God, dude, this is so boring. I'm just gonna try and wrap this up. No one wants to see this. This is the important stuff too. This is where most of the stuff happens. Honestly, most of the stuff doesn't even happen in the script. All the flight really does, the way the system works, is that it uses a body gyro and a body velocity and just manipulates it. So basically, it puts these values onto an object like this. And so normally, object is going to be affected by gravity, saying, boom, I fall at the speed that is set by the gravity, you know? So like, for example, should be in here. Yeah, I could set the gravity like 15, you know? And when I go test it, oh, where's all the gravity? Even though we're not flying yet, the gravity is like super low because I changed it. So we're kind of just doing similar things like that, except we're not manipulating gravity. We're just manipulating the player's velocity, and we're adding a gyro to it, which just means it's going to kind of like hover, and then from once it's hovering, it's not affected by gravity anymore. We can just move it forward and backward by manipulating the velocity. That's really all it is. And really, dude, just plug this stuff into ChatGPT and you got it. You could probably even just ask ChatGPT to make it at this point. I don't even know why they need programmers like me. ChatGPT does it all. Anyway, I mean, yeah, that's really all this is. And then just this is junking out the stuff we did earlier. It's just tweening it, just moving it from place to place. It's just playing the animations we said earlier. It's playing the sounds we said earlier. This is just setting states for the gyro to work. Basically, meaning like, if you go in the water, you're not going to swim. You're not going to be running in the air. You're not going to be doing any of that because you're flying. The gyro is going to be having you work or having you do stuff. And all this does is basically it's just measuring how many times you press space. That's it. It just meaning that if you double tap space while in the air, then boom, you can fly. And this was a little clause I added later that you can remove if you want. But basically, initially I was using this flying system for like a superhero combat game, and I didn't want you to be able to fly if your health was below 30. So in this, all it says is like if your health is uh, greater than or equal to 30, then you can't fly. That's really all it does. It just doesn't let you fly. It just ends it instantly. And everything else here, if the direction is moving backwards, then it plays the backward animation. And that's just things we defined here, or if you're moving in the negative Z direction, then backward. If you're moving that and that and that, it's all that. The only thing is we don't really measure the Y component. So if you wanted to add 2 more animations, or I guess 16 more animations or 8 more animations, however many it would be, you could definitely add another animation that manipulates the Y-axis, and then you could do backwards, up, left, and stuff like that. You could also do plenty more animations and just add on to this. It's really all this stuff is just a basic flying system that should help people try it out. That's really it. I don't think I have anything else to say.